Hello and welcome to another edition of Curry Talks. My name is Noah Bartholomew, and this is a show where we get to learn more about members in our Curry community. Today I'm here with Professor John Barrett. Professor John Barrett is a professor here in the communication department and is also the former head, and he's here to sort of talk about the communication department at large. Welcome, Professor Barrett.
Good to be here.
So, Professor Barrett, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. So Curry started off as a school for communication, and you've been here at the school since 1997 and seen the communication department through a stage that most people haven't gotten to. What was the communication program like back when you first arrived here?
Well, it was a lot smaller. I mean, for one thing, this where we're sitting here in the studio didn't exist. There wasn't much in the way of television at all until we had the great good fortune to find Professor Gibbs, who built the program, and now we have this wonderful studio. At that time, we did not have yet a full-time film professor, and obviously just last year we added a full-time video gaming professor, Professor DeCizio and then Professor Kagan for gaming. So the opportunity for students to work with professionals in the field has greatly expanded since I've been here.
Well, we know around 7 years ago you became the chair of the communication department. How did you feel when you first selected for that position? What were your goals when you sort of became the chair?
Obviously, I was honored. It's an elected position. My biggest goal was just sort of trying to get through all of the organizational paperwork, et cetera. There's a lot of budgeting, there's a lot of scheduling, working around the classes so they don't compete with each other. I did have one big goal that I was very keen on. Around the time that the Department of Nursing became the School of Nursing, I was really pushing for a School of Communication, but I couldn't make that happen.
Well, I bet a lot of students appreciate the effort nonetheless, and you obviously had some key responsibilities, including scheduling classes, making hirings of adjunct professors, and making other key tweaks. Can you talk about some of the other responsibilities and roles that you had as chair of that department?
Well, first and foremost, hiring is a decision made by the department as a whole. Like most actual decisions in the department, it's a collaborative decision. There's a search committee that's named for any given job opening, and those people look at the big list, but once it gets down to the short list, we invite the people on campus, everybody in the department meets them, and everybody votes on them. So as should be in an academic framework, that's a collaborative decision, not the chair's.
Well, as an expert here on communications, sort of here at Curry, what improvements are you looking to see come across the next couple of years? What are you really excited about?
Well, it's an interesting question because we had a meeting yesterday of the faculty in communication, and changes are coming. As you mentioned earlier, the department began in the 19th century, and there is still a lot of dust and rust left on the curriculum. And we are moving towards moving that curriculum into the 21st century. It's unformed as yet because, as I said, we had a meeting yesterday. We're going to have another meeting in a couple of weeks. But there are changes coming, and there are big changes coming that will move the department into the present day and look to the future.
Perfect. Well, I'm really excited about that as a junior here, so maybe I'll get to see some of those changes. But now that you're no longer chair of the department, what's next for you? And what are you currently doing right now?
Right now, I'm back to teaching. As I said, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of scheduling, there's a lot of budgeting. And when you become chair, the organizational structure is they take away half of your teaching time to give you time to do all the paperwork and go to meetings and file reports. And nobody gets into teaching to go to meetings and file reports. So now I have that teaching time back, and all of my time on campus is spent in the classroom, and I'm just fine with that.
Well, we're perfect. Absolutely excited to have you back in the classroom. Hopefully I'll get to have a class with you very, very soon. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I'm Noah Bartholomew, and I want to thank you for listening to Curry Talks, and hopefully we'll get to see you soon.
Hello and welcome to Curry Talks. My name is Patrick Meduno and this is the program where we learn more about members of the Curry community. Today's guest is Rachel Sina, a sexual violence prevention educator here at Curry College. She's here to talk to us about dating and sexual violence and how you can protect yourself. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
I understand your responsibilities in your role as prevention educator is to talk about sex education and consent. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so as a prevention educator, I talk with students before hopefully anything happens so that we can all understand what a healthy relationship looks like, what an abusive relationship looks like, and how to have a healthy sexual interaction where everybody feels good about what's happened and we all know that we're consenting.
Well, that's awesome. That's always the deal, to have everyone safe and consenting. Can you help us understand the types of activities you work to prevent?
Yeah, so I work with the Title IX office, and so we try to prevent people from experiencing discrimination based on sex in their education. And so that includes any kind of sexual harassment, sexual assault, or relationship abuse.
And I've heard before about Curry consent, which sounds like recommendations we should follow. Can you tell us a little more about that?
So Curry Consent is a student group on campus, and those students work to educate other students about consent and sex and relationships alongside me so that we can all kind of understand what a healthy way to approach those situations are.
And I understand your office is also looking for help through peer educators. Can you tell us a little bit more about that role?
Yeah, so our Curry Consent peer educators are students on campus who have an interest in learning more about sexual and relationship violence. And those students apply for a position as a peer educator. So we have hired a group of peer educators, and they will be trained to facilitate workshops with Curry students on these kind of topics. It's always better to hear something from your peers rather than from me or from somebody else who's a staff member. And so we are always recruiting for new students who are interested in that kind of thing.
Well, that's awesome. Obviously, we want to get more members. Can you tell us a little bit more about the application process for that?
Yeah, so students who are interested would email me with their resume and cover letter, and then we'd do an interview. We are wrapping up recruitment for this year, but anybody next year who's interested, we would love to always get more members. The more people who are educated on this kind of thing, the more we can start to change the culture on campus and make it so these things don't happen anymore.
Well, that would be awesome. Obviously, I would love for these things to end. But I understand you have a master's degree in social work from Boston College. How did you get involved in this career?
Yeah, so I got my master's in social work because I was interested in trying to prevent different social problems from happening. And so my first internship while I was in social work school was at a domestic violence organization, and with them I worked on teen dating violence prevention. And so very similar to what I do here at Curry, but I worked with high school students about relationships and abuse. And so I really loved it. I love working with students, and I decided to come here to Curry to do similar work.
Well, that's awesome. And we're just about out of time. A reminder to contact Rachel if you're interested about being a peer educator. And if you have any questions, visit her office located in the King Building. Until next time, stay safe. And we hope you join us again for another edition of Curry Talks.
Welcome, Curry community, to today's edition of Curry Talks, where we introduce you to members of our Curry community. My name is Chris Wilder, and I'll be your host today. Our guest today is Professor Lynn Abrahams, a professor from the Program of Advancement of Learning, or the Powell program. She is also an expert on learning disabilities. She is also here to tell us more about the Powell program. Welcome, Professor Abrahams.
I'm thrilled to be here.
So I understand Gertrude Webb started the program 50 years ago. Can you tell us why she started the program and her vision for it?
She was an amazing educator, and she was working with a lot of students who were really smart students, but they were having trouble in school. And so she saw that, and she decided she wanted to build a program to support these really smart kids who were struggling. And she was really a visionary. She saw into the future, and she built an amazing program.
Yeah. So I understand 15 to 20% of the Curry students are in the Powell program. Mm-hmm. Is that by chance, or is that the intended target?
That actually is the intended target. I think right now we have about 18% of the students at Curry. And the reason we really don't want it to grow much more than 20% because Curry College is not a school for learning disabilities. It's a regular college, 4-year liberal arts college, and we want to keep it, that way.
Mm-hmm. So you have been involved in the program since 1997 and have seen the program develop into what it is today. What do you like most about your work at Powell?
First of all, I can't believe I've been here that long. I feel really old when you say that. But the reason I stay is because I love the work. And I think what I love most is that I get to meet all these students and get to know them. Mm-hmm. And the thing about learning differences is that everybody's brain is sort of wired up in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it's really kind of fun to help students figure out how they learn mm-hmm. and how their brains are wired. So I love, it's constantly new and constantly exciting.
Yeah,
fun.
It does seem very, very exciting.
Yeah.
How do you think the Powell program contributes to the Curry community as like a whole?
I think in a number of ways. First of all, because we have students with learning differences on campus, I think it teaches professors that students learn in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I think it's good for everybody because I think students learn from each other. And so everybody's got their different talents and strengths, and I think having students who learn differently on campus, is really positive for everyone. Mm-hmm.
So students and professors face different challenges in the program. For example, note-taking. What are some other challenges that the students and professors face?
So a number of our students may have difficulty processing information coming in. So they may need extended time on their tests in order to have the time they need to process. So this isn't like giving an extra thing to someone. What it's doing is leveling the playing field so that students can show how smart they really are. So I think extended time might be one of the accommodations. We also have students, learn in Powell sessions how they learn, which is really helpful.
So, switching gears, 50 years is a very important milestone for Powell. As Powell celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, what are its biggest accomplishments?
The biggest accomplishment is that I feel we've normalized learning differences. In other words, we've made it something so that there's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to feel bad about. It's actually, we focus on the strengths and the talents of our students. So I think the biggest thing we've done is shift the model from looking at disabilities to looking at strengths and talents.
Well, thank you, but we are very much out of time. But I want to thank you for coming in, and happy 50th anniversary one more time. Join us next time for another edition of Curry Talks. I'm Chris Wilder, and this is the program where we learn more about people in the Curry community. Today's guest is Marcy Harrington, Assistant Director of Residence Life and Housing. She's here to talk about the current status of residence halls and student life. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you.
First, for those who aren't familiar with residence life and housing, can you give us an idea of the department's role on campus?
Absolutely. So in residence life and housing, our goal is to help do everything within the residence halls to create a community that is warm, welcoming, safe, and allows students to be academically successful here on campus. So that includes, helping folks get into their housing assignments, making sure the residence halls are in good condition, and working with our community directors and our resident assistants. Those are the staff within the residence halls, just to promote community and make Curry feel like a home away from home.
For those who live on campus, it is no secret that each of the buildings are unique in their own way. Is there a reason why the residence halls are so different from each other?
Yeah, so a lot of it just has to do with the land that Curry is on and how we naturally assumed some of our facilities here on campus. And also part of it is just due to responding to what students want to see. So Bell Hall is our newest residence hall and has pod style living, and that's a little bit more elevated living. And it's also just based off of what we heard that students wanted to be in. I also think that our houses and some of the more unique housing across campus really are part of what makes Curry different and unique and allows students the opportunity to live in a house style setting away from home, which could be pretty cool, especially with their friends.
Does any of that explain why housing is more or less expensive depending on where you live on campus?
Absolutely, it has everything to do with it. So, for our newer housing, there's obviously going to be an increase in price with that. So folks will see that in in Bell Hall, but and then also in suites and in SCRH, that's a little bit more expensive because you're paying not only for your specific residence hall room, but you're also paying for the access to the common room and private bathroom that you share with your suite mates. And so, with different levels of housing, we want to make sure that there's a standard that everyone has access to, but there are some elevated options should folks want to, have a different living experience.
Interesting. Do you know if Curry has any future plans to renovate any of the buildings?
Absolutely. We're always looking to improve the residence hall and the residence hall experience. Most recently, we did do some work in State Lombard and Mayflower, and we updated those lounge spaces to have them be a little bit newer and a really great space for our first year students. We're continuing to evaluate what students want and need, and looking at our, some of our more outdated spaces across campus to see what things we can do short term in terms of just, updating those lounges like we did in State Lombard and Mayflower, but maybe some more structural long-term things that we can do to create spaces that students really want. So, thinking about more single spaces or more suites and pods, responding to what it is that students want to see on campus.
So switching gears a bit, I understand that students can be a part of residence life by becoming an RA. Can you give us more information about that?
Absolutely. So the RA position, which stands for Resident Assistant, is an awesome leadership opportunity here on campus. And we're still accepting applicants for the spring semester. So if it's something anyone's interested in, definitely check it out. And so the RA position is a leadership position across campus. You live and work in our residence halls, promoting community, making sure that everyone is safe and has what they need to be academically successful. And like I said, it's a really great leadership opportunity for folks that want to be a leader among their peers. Is it challenging? Of course, but it's also incredibly rewarding, and you get a really cool opportunity to make a difference on campus. So again, if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check out our RA selection tab on the portal, or just reach out to us in Residence Life.
Well, we are just about out of time. I would like to thank Marcy for taking time out of her day to come and join us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and remember that it is our responsibility as a campus to always treat our home with care and respect. I'm Chris Wilder. Please join us again for another edition of Curry Talks.
Good afternoon and welcome to Curry Talks. I'm Andres Haas, and this is the program where members of the Curry community learn more about each other. Today's guest is Yawa D'Souza. Yawa is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion here at Curry and is here to talk about these initiatives on campus. Welcome, Yawa.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Could we begin by providing an overview of the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion program at Curry College?
Yes. So our office is called the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and recently we opened the doors to our Curry College's very first Diversity Center. And what you'll find within the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and in our center are programs and services to support all of our students, with a particular focus on our underrepresented students, so our students of color, students who may identify LGBTQ+, our first generation students, high needs students, and any other student who comes through our doors looking for support and services around equity, inclusion, and social justice.
That is wonderful to hear. Why do you personally feel it is important to have a program like that on campus?
That's a great question. I think it's important for us to have programming around diversity and inclusion because we want to make sure that everyone who is a member of this campus feels like they belong to this campus. And while it might seem like on the surface level, of course, if you are admitted or accepted to Curry College, you should feel like you are accepted. But in the eyes of different students with different identities, different backgrounds, different cultures, and different values, attending college is a really big deal. And being on a campus where you may not see a lot of people that look like you or who value the same things as you or who do not know a lot about where you come from, our office helps to sort of promote that inclusivity on campus and to let students know that they are welcome here and that this campus is theirs.
I fully agree. And in the past few semesters, there have been hate-related incidents on campus. In addition to these, what are some critical issues that your office works to address?
Yes, and these issues have happened on campus and around the world as well, and those issues that have happened around the world have definitely affected our campus. So we have different programming. We've started a conversation series or restarted a conversation series called Woke Wednesdays, where we talk about hot topics in the DE&I sort of related space. And we try to have these casual conversations with anyone across the campus so that they know how to discuss these things, how to go about continuing to have conversations about them. We also support students with programming and services related to their identity. So we work with our affinity clubs like the Black Student Union, the Latino Student Union, the Curry Pride Coalition, Feminists United, the Collision Dynasty Dance Team, and others to come. And then we just have casual conversations as well in the Diversity Center. And so a Diversity Center is really important because honestly, you never know when a situation is going to come up, whether it's on campus or in the world, nationally or internationally. And so a Diversity Center is a great space to bring people together to be able to say, what did just happen? How did this affect us as a community, as a people, and how do we want to move forward?
Something I do know is that your office does an excellent job on promoting and advertising events on campus, such as the block party from last semester. Mm-hmm. How might you encourage Curry students to get the word out around campus?
Yes. So in order to know about our programs and events, we market all of our programs primarily through the Presence platform. That is where all Curry events land and show up. And so if a student wants to know what's happening on campus in general, it would be on Presence. And then when we have specific programming that we want to let the entire community know about, so I'm talking about faculty, staff, students, anyone that comes in touch with our campus, we send out a campus-wide email. And so we encourage students to stay in touch with us via email. And then the last place is social media.
Well, it looks like we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today, Yawa. And a reminder to our viewers that her office is located in the Student Center on the second floor. I'm Andres Haas. Please join me for another edition of Curry Talks.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Curry Talks. I'm Mike Templeton, and this is the program where members of the Curry community learn more about each other. Today's guest is Marcy Holbrook. She is a professor here at Curry and is also the head of the theater department. Today, we will be discussing the historic theater program here. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you, Mike. Happy to be here.
Great to have you on the program. So, I know that this program is one of the oldest programs at the institution, starting in 1879. Can you tell us more about how theater has changed since then?
Well, theater always evolves along with the various plays that are being written. We try to capture some of the old, some of the new, but D.L. Garrett deserves credit for initiating the theater. I think there had been someone here before her, but she really picked up the reins and got it going. So, but it's changed only in the sense that we're looking at new material. There are basic ground rules for theater that are always going to apply, and it's pretty much the same. We do, well, I'll tell you one thing we've added is an improv show. We have 4 shows a year, 2 black box, 2 main stage, and now we have an improv cabaret. So we've added that.
Wonderful. So you've been working at Curry for a combined 20 years, and this theater program was one of the first programs at Curry. So tell me, how did the pandemic affect the theater program? How did that change your perception of things?
Well, it didn't change my perception so much as it just took, because we weren't able to do things in our typical fashion, I thought we lost a little momentum. But I'm very proud of the fact that we kept it going. We streamed some things. We did some, we actually had a lot of fun, and you were involved with that project. We did some things on film, which was a lot of fun and very different, but nevertheless, it captured the essence of the theater. And now I just did a black box production, and I'm happy to say I had on stage, this doesn't even count the people backstage and the people working on tech, I had 14 individuals on stage, and so that gives me a good feeling right there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I know that theater is having 2 shows this year, A Doll's House, and of course the one you already mentioned, the black box production, Shades of the Twilight Zone.
Right.
How did you talk about Shades of the Twilight Zone? How did you come up with that idea, that name, that concept?
Well, originally I'd wanted to do a play called The Royale, but it requires a specific type of cast, and I did not have the right people come out for the show. That's the thing about theater. You can be a phenomenal actor, but if you don't fit in a particular role, you may not get it. And so I had to recalculate, and so I was talking to a couple of people, and I was looking at some smaller plays, and all of a sudden we got all these plays pulled together, and most of them had a wry twist at the end that seemed to kind of fit the wry twist that we see in the Twilight Zone. So therefore, we just called it the Shades of the Twilight Zone to encompass everything.
Wonderful. That's fantastic story. Numbers of the people involved has gone down in recent years. So how can theater help with other areas of study? How can it, enhance maybe nursing or, criminal justice, other majors on campus?
Well, I have to say, you said it's gone down, meaning less people?
Right.
Yeah, well, we graduated, 2 years ago we graduated so many seniors, and then last year we graduated even more. So we've lost a lot, but I see a rekindling happening, and I'm very optimistic about it. But how can it help people? I love this topic, so I could probably go on about it, but theater is a subject that really reaches out to the whole person, and things that you get out of it are learning how to make decisions, increasing your ability to solve problems, things that you need in other class, the research that we do to mount the play.
Right.
So all these things are very much, and memorizing. Memorizing is a skill that we have to practice. You don't use it, you lose it. The more you memorize, the better you get at memorizing. So the outreach to individuals, the village it presents here on the campus.
Right. Of course. Well, I'd love to talk and continue this conversation. We're on a great flow here, but thank you so much for spending time with us here. If you'd like to learn more about theater, you can go to curry.edu. Make sure to see A Doll's House, December 4th through the 7th. I'm Mike Templeton. Please join us again for another edition of Curry Talks.
Okay.